Okay, so they can see my screen? Okay. I still don't see on the YouTube, so I'm just checking. There is another link. Okay, can you just put me on the WhatsApp so that I keep seeing that? So we're live right now? Okay. Hey guys, good evening for the people who are there in the campus right now. I know it's late. There is another link. I hope you guys had dinner before coming up for this one. I will take somewhere around 35 to 45 minutes based on the questions which will come from you guys. But what I will try to do here is I'll try to summarize or share my journey as well as some of the learnings that I had over the last 17 years since I passed out from IIT Guwahati way back in 2003, as well as we'll cover a few of the things which I learned during those 4 years when I was in campus. But before that, I would like to say Happy Women's Day to all the lovely ladies and for making the world beautiful. Going back, so 99 is the year when I joined IIT Guwahati. I looked something like this. This picture is from 97. I couldn't find the picture from 99, but it gives you a glimpse of how I was. And I would say I was more like you guys who are there on the campus, just like you, what you are right now. I was the same 20 years back. Not much change with respect to what you guys are there. And I just wanted to say that whatever I have achieved over the years, I think every one of you can do much, much better than me. So don't think that Himanshu is there, what all he would have done to reach there. I think if you guys continue and do the right things, you can be much, much, much more successful than me. So I'll just give you a little background. And this is one of the image from 22nd March 2012 when I was there for a entrepreneurship talk as part of EDC, and this was a picture from there. And you guys knows PDP, what happens on the campus, and some of your juniors from 2011, 12, 13 batch did a PDP of me. So I'll start from there. And these are my IITG coordinates. I was joined IITG, as I said, in 99, so passed out from a class of 2003. I did the graduation in computer science, and my CPI was 8.27, if I remember correctly. And it has been always in the same range. And I was known for or famous for the PJs there at the campus, which is still continuing. And at the end of the campus, or as part of the campus recruitment, I got a job. I forgot the company name, but that job was more about 10K per month. That was the internship which I got for 6 months, and post that I think there was some CTC which I don't remember, but that was there on the campus, and these were my IIT coordinates. So just to give you one story around the campus offer, since we guys were talking about that, in fourth year we have a small culture or tradition of giving parties over the weekend. We guys used to be there in the campus, and there were no good restaurant, hotel there. So we guys used to go back to the city, and the tradition was that whoever gets a job offer used to get the treat. So the placement started somewhere around, I think, June, not June, but August kind of thing. And every week we were going for the campus, not the campus, the city, and we used to have Saturday or Sunday party. And somewhere in October, I think this tradition was going on, and there was one weekend in October where there was no one. And I was the rank number 10th or 9th in my CSE. So I said, "Ki all the people who are till rank 8 are done. So let me take the treat or give the treat to you guys, because I am next in the pipeline. So should be done." And you guys won't believe it. Since October till March, I didn't get the job. In March, I got this job, and then post that, something happened for me where I got a much better job. So that was one of the funny instances which happened there in IITG. And again, it's talking about don't give up the hope. Things are going to happen good for you. So things do normalize. Have patience is the key there. This is a picture of our 2003 CSE gang. We were 36 people, and from our batch, there used to be only 100 people. So you can talk about the growth which has happened in IITG, as well as how small we were when we used to be there in IITG. Going forward, the 4 years in IITG, right? So I always say that wherever you are, what you are doing, there is always something which you learn. So if you see my 4 years of IIT journey, I have classified it into 5 bullet points. Simple. There were tons of other things which happened, but I was regular with the classes. I didn't used to bunk much, so I pretty much knew what's happening from a course point of view, and I don't need to do mugify at a later point, because I was listening and paying some attention. I won't say I was the front bencher, but at least if you're in the class and listening something, you will learn something. And I try to balance between the studies as well as the extracurricular activities. So there was a lot of fun which we used to do, and I was known for some portion of it. So I was able to put a balance between studies and extracurricular activities. And I was one of the active member for technician Elchiringa core committees. So I learned a lot of things from a planning point of view, from management, and tons of things which comes there. And we used to do tons of new things, like we started a portion of Manthan at that time, which was the first time inter hostel competition which was happening. And we did ton of things, from your Lori celebration, holy celebration, to multiple things. So that was also I used to do a lot. And in the 4th year, I was the student affairs secchi for the Gymkhana, and that was the post which I was holding. So these were a few things, but if I just look back and see that in IIT, other than the basic studies, what did I learn? So I think one of the important thing which came out as a side product of those 4 years was that I learned a lot of management skills during those 4 years. I was part of the treasurer committee or the infrastructure committee. So I learned how to handle people. So there was a lot of people handling, how to do the negotiations, which also came out. And you will see over the period in the last 17 years, that did play a pretty important role in the way the things are happening, or the things where I am involved. So other than the studies, I was more active on the fitness side, not the gym, but more the sports kind of thing. And there were tons of things from an organization point of view come. So that's where I had a zeal of setting the trends, and I feel happy about some of the failures and the successes which has come from there. So don't think that you have come to IIT and just go through the IIT and nothing is going to come from there. I think you guys are going through those 4 years, and at some point when you pass out, you will realize some of the important things that you have learned, or you miss the opportunity to take those. So don't just go through these 4 years. Do look at some of the outcome which will come out from there. Now, during IITs, I think this was there was only two major options which used to happen. One is more about going for higher education, which is MS or your CAT, and the second one was joining the corporates. There was very less things about the entrepreneurships or startups at that time, but I'll put down what was my perspective of startup during the early years of my life. First one was that startup means loads of money, right? That was the one impression which comes out. But the truth is, it do mean loads of money, but less than 0.1% of the people get it, right? And if you are chasing money, there are very less chance that you will be successful. If you are going to chase your passion, there are good chances that money will chase you, right? So startup doesn't means money. There are a lot of struggle, lot of learnings, lot of failures. uh, those things come, which is what I wanted to put down here. The second thing which comes out is, okay, someone is has started this new gig or doing this startup. This is going to be successful, right? Because from the news and from the various channel, what we see is the good things, that this startup was able to raise this money, they were able to do this thing, they were able to exit out at that point. But the truth is, the news, the media, and all the publication shows less than 0.1% of that, right? There are 99.9% which is not successful, where they are learning from their failures, right? So the second point was that not all startups or most startups are successful. Only very few are. The third thing which came out was that you need to have pretty good communication. You should be able to cater, or you should be able to, if there is a big hall, there are more than 500,000 people, you should be able to give a good lecture, should be able to motivate them. You should be having a good command over English language, right? That's not true. And if you see, 18 or 19 years back, as I was saying, I was sitting just like you guys. I had pretty bad English, right? I'm still learning over the English language, and but at the time I didn't know how to communicate, how to articulate, how to put down the right message across the table, right? Over the period, things has improved, but it doesn't mean that you need to be good with English to be a successful entrepreneur or have a startup. The fourth thing, which was a myth for me, was that if I can't start the conversation, or if I'm not a extrovert, I can't be a successful entrepreneur, or I can't have a good startup, right? That was also a myth. So don't think that if you're an introvert you can't do it, or if you're an extrovert you have an advantage, right? That thing doesn't come into play, right? The thing which come majorly into play is your passion, your hard work, and how you are able to take it forward, how much patience you have, right? So those are a couple of things which come into play, and those were the four myths which I used to have when I was passing out from the college, or when I was in my earlier days of the corporate world. Now coming back, going back again to 2003, so 2003 to 2020, which is 17 years, how has been my journey and what are the learning which came out from there? So 2003 to 2009 is when I was an employee. I joined a company known as Trilogy Softwares. They were known for their tech geekness, and this happened somewhere in April of 2003. After that 10K per month internship, so I think I got a package of 7 lakhs per annum at the time for Trilogy, and that's where the things started changing for me. So I joined as a software developer. They used to call it as technical analyst. I was there for 6 years, and I did work with a lot of big brands like Sun Microsystems, which is acquired by Oracle, Ford Motors, most of the big OEMs which are there in US, right? So I was able to move from simple software developer to a techno managerial role, where I was still involved on the tech side, but able to work out with a team or lead a team, right? So those were the few things which happened in those 6 years. But if I just need to put down the learning which came out from there, I was able to differentiate between a good versus great engineer, right? There are the great engineer act as an owner. There are passion about it, whereas the good engineer just do the things what is expected from him, right? So those are the couple of differences which I noticed, observed, as well as able to make in myself. The second thing is I was able to work with the great people which was around me, which was in terms of the colleagues which were being there, or with respect to the clients, because I was doing some of the interaction there. So I understood how the things plays around there. The third thing is, since I was working in such a great environment, I was able to uh, build some relationship which did turn out to be a mentors and advisors kind of role, where I was able to talk to them, understand what are things which I need to do so that I can use those learnings and move forward in my career, right? And the last thing, which is the important thing, is since I was good or I was great at some point, I was able to build a network of people who were not just colleague, but at some point became customer kind of role, where I was able. Right. So this build network was one of the important thing, because in those 6 years and post changing from employee to employer, I think that network did help us out a lot in the initial days. Because assume if I just start a startup on day one, I don't know anyone, right? And as I said, there are 0.1 percent chances of success there. So if you don't have a network, if you don't have the friends and good people who knows about you as well as your capability, it becomes very difficult. So I'm again stressing on the network part, which actually worked for me, and I think has worked out for many. So those were the few things which happened in the first 6 years of my life into the corporate world, where I was working as an employee for a company. These were some of the pictures from those years. I got married. I have pets with me, and then I was there in Techniche, did a sponsorship for one event. So those were a few things which came out from there. Now, 2009 is the point when, luckily or unluckily, I came on the startup side of the world, or the entrepreneurship side of the world. It just happened, and I think it was the right time, because during the first 6 years, I was able to build some cash flow for myself, got married. So some of the initial logistics which is required for a person were sorted, and this was a time when I could take some risk, and that is what happened in 2009 when I took that risk. So I moved from Trilogy as a full-time employee to a consultant, so that there is some cash flow which is coming up. And along with a couple of colleagues from Trilogy, co-founded HashedIn Technologies. This was in November of 2010, and we will be completing 10 years this November. So that was the place where I was talking about. I took a deep dive into the swimming pool. So initially, we started working on a product. As I was saying, that the initial story about the startup myths. So we started working on a product. For the couple of years, we kind of put down all of our saving, and we were those 99.9% where we were not able to take the product into the market in a manner how we wanted. So we pivoted from a product development company or a product company to a product development services company. That pivot happened in 2012, and that's where we started seeing the growth for us. So that's where we were four who started HashedIn, and as of today, we are 700 plus people who are in HashedIn. So we have seen the growth from 4 people to 700 plus engineers here at HashedIn in the last 7 years or so. Now, if I just need to put down the learning which has come in the last 10 years, I think there were tons of new things which came, because earlier, if you see, I was just a software developer, a techno manager, but here had to do anything and everything, whether it's on the sales side, whether it's on the marketing side, whether it's on the design side where you need to do something, whether it's related to finance, whether it's related to HR. There are all the angles where you could see where I learned, played around, failed multiple times, got some success, failed again. So that journey is still continuing, but this is on a very high scale, right? Because that's how we have to do. The second thing was, since you are running your business, you have the power to experiment, right? Earlier, as an employee, you're just given certain responsibility and role and responsibility, so you have limited set to experiment. But here, the canvas was very big, so we had the power to experiment a lot. The third thing is the startup life or the entrepreneur life is really very hectic. It's a high pressure game. There are tons of things which is expected from us, because assume as the team is growing from 4 people to 50 people, you are responsible for their salaries, making sure that the business is running, because those 50 people are dependent on you, right? So there are a lot of responsibilities which come into play. And but one common thing which we had across the board is that it was a fun filled ride, right? So whenever there was a moment to celebrate, there is a culture of fun or environment of fun which we have created, which is what motivates and build the energy inside the system. So that's something which we did. And again, the last thing is, if you don't have and this is a pretty famous one, if there is no pain, no gain, right? And that's something that's the same philosophy that we saw from our eyes when we were running this HashedIn, and which is still going on. And the philosophy still continues, that if there is no pain, no gain, right? So that's what is happening. So those were a few learnings which came out in the last 9 or 10 years as part of the startup or the being an employer. So I'm just taking a pause just to make sure that there are any questions from you guys. If there are, then I'll take it. I think there are no right now. But in between, if you have any question, feel free to put it down there, and I'll try to connect and see if there are stories around that. Moving forward from the entrepreneurship slide that I put down the last 9 years, this is what HashedIn is right now. So we are, as I said, we are a product development services company. We have been working with Fortune 500 enterprises. We are working with some of the unicorns. So Ford, Honeywell, Aruba, Mahindra, they are the Fortune 500 companies. From an unicorn point of view, if you need to see, we have CureFit, Bounce, Swiggy, Myntra. They are some of those, as well as working with other enterprises like Atlassian, Amazon, Intuit. There are few other. Few other things that you notice here is that from day one, we have been heavy on the tech side, and that's where we build some strong partnership with some of the giants. So AWS is one of them, and we are the number one born in cloud category partner for them, and we are the number one in that space, number one SaaS product and platform builder. So that's a category which has been given by AWS for us. And then there are other partnerships that we have built. One is with Redis Labs. Redis is the number one NoSQL database, and Redis Labs is the enterprise version of it. The third one is with Heroku, which is the PaaS version of cloud, which is owned by Salesforce. And the fourth one is with Confluent, which is the enterprise version of Apache Kafka for data streaming. So we build an environment where we feel proud at this moment, and the employees, we call it as Hasher, they also feel proud. So we have been able to build a culture of innovation, product mindset, and act as ownership. Those are the three attributes that we have created in the environment, and that's what people love about it. So the journey changed a lot from an simple employee, which was I was there at Trilogy, and now to create an environment where people are able to come, be happy about what they are doing or love what they are doing. So that's a kind of environment that we have created at HashedIn. These are a few of the rewards and recognitions that we have got over the period. We have been certified as the best workplaces, India's best 50 workplaces, and that happened in 2018 as well as in 2019. So the last continuous years we have been the best workplace. We recently got the in last November Deloitte Tech Fast 50 2019 award, and then there are a few other places where we have shined or people are talking about us. This is one of the funny myth what people think about entrepreneurs. So if you see what's everyone parent think which entrepreneur is doing, the second one is what about the friend and family, what they think about you. The third one is the easy life, what the society think about you. And if you are funded or going to be funded soon, what the investor thinks about you. And the fifth one is what I think I do. And sixth one is actually usually the reality in the earlier days when you are just waiting that the things works out and there are customers who are coming and able to take your services. So this is just one of those funny slides there. Coming back, the five things that I learned over the last 9 or 10 years, that ideas will fail, right? And if you look at some of those successful startups like Angry Bird, their 51 ideas failed, the gaming ideas, and they were able to make it successful at 50 second one. So ideas will fail. There could be you could be a lucky where your first time the idea will work out, but most of the time be ready for the failure. Second one is don't be afraid to experiment, right? Failures is where most of your learning will come out, right? So never be shy of failure. That's my second message. And the third message is if you are doing getting the failures multiple times, that's a good sign because failure is one of the prerequisite to success. So if you've failed multiple times, there is a high probability that success is close by to you. The fourth thing is celebrate failure, right? Don't shy away from it. The good thing about failure is it teaches good things to you. So learn from it and make sure that you don't commit those mistakes again and move on. So that's my fourth message there. The last one is that instead of doing multiple things in the initial run, do one thing perfectly, right? That's one of the things which I learned, that I don't need to try out multiple things in the initial run. uh, just try to focus on a couple of things or one thing which you want to make it perfect, and then once you establish you can try out multiple things. Because in the initial run when you are there, if you try to focus on multiple things, there are high chances that you won't be able to do any of those things right. And that would mean that you won't be able to succeed in your journey. So do one thing perfectly, not 10 things poorly, is the last message. Going forward, just five small advices to the budding entrepreneurs if you want to do the startup. My usual message is that if you want to do a startup, don't take a deep dive into the swimming pool just post your graduation, unless you have a pretty great idea and you know that this is a business problem. Do spend some time into the corporate world, learn about how the software is built or how the corporate world react. And once you know about the inside stories and the things, as well as have some network, then take a deep dive into that swimming pool of startup. But having said that, these are the 5 advices for the budding entrepreneurs. One is, don't just try to do anything and everything. Always think about what value that you are going to provide to the customer or the end user, right? So create something of value is the number one thing. The second thing is, as I said in the earlier slide, don't think about money, right? Money is the byproduct. The important thing for you is what's your passion is all about, why you are trying to do this thing. And that's what the passion is all about. And that's what will help you out. So don't think about the money, think about what problem that you are solving and where is your passion. The third thing is always the cash flow matters. Whatever initial saving you are going to put or you will get from family and friends, do some math so that you don't burn out all the cash, because the game here is being patient, a little bit long term kind of thing. So try to make sure that you have a little bit visibility, as well as trying to maintain the cash flow so that you can learn for long, because that's something which will bite you if you're not going to take care of it properly. The fourth, which always comes as a question, is shall I start the startup with a friend or with an unknown, right? So my philosophy is that obviously you can start with friends, but it's harder sometime and as well as easier sometime. So try to look whether you guys have the same passion, you understand the problem that you are trying to solve, and you have a little bit chemistry, right? It should not happen when things are going wrong. There is a blaming or finger pointing which is happening, right? Which can happen, which can make the life harder. Whereas if you guys understand and the roles and responsibilities are clear, then it can be an easier thing, right? So when you are starting, take the decision and think about it, why you are doing it, and where you are going towards. And the last one is, always start small and think big. Don't try to do all the things in one go. That won't take you to the place where you want to head. Whereas starting small, doing a feasibility of that, seeing whether the customers are liking it or taking forward, will help you out understanding the value proposition that you are trying to make, and then you can take it big. So always start small, but think big is the fifth one. I'm taking a pause here again just to see if there is a question. Uh, okay, there are no questions so far. If I'm looking at the right window, I think I'm not looking at the right window. But Ashutosh, do let me know if there are questions. I'll just take on further from here. Okay, so let me just open that. So in the meantime, that link is opening for me. Okay. So the first question is, sir, as you said initially, we should focus on only one thing. But what if we get all my efforts in one direction, later realize it's not working out? Yeah. So that's a good question. My answer there is, one thing. I didn't meant that if you take one thing, take it to the completion there. Always take one thing and try to fail fast instead of trying to do everything around one thing. So start small and launch it and see what's the perspective which is coming from the field, how your potential customers are talking about it. That will give you a little bit glimpse about whether you are thinking in the right direction, you need to put more efforts, or you need to pivot, or you need to think into a different direction. So that was the first question which was being there. I'm just trying to find out what's the other one. Okay, sir, what to do as a second year ed who is aspiring to be an entrepreneur, right? So there is no good answer for that one. That if you what to do on the second year, but my answer to there is look at some of the opportunities that you have in the 4 years of your IITG, right? As an entrepreneur, you could play a role as a tech co-founder or as a business co-founder, right? So if you want to be a tech co-founder, do put some stress on the fundamentals, on the programming side, because at the end of the day it will help you. If you want to be on the business side of the world, then start thinking about what's a value proposition, how you want to take it to the market, what's your go-to marketing strategy, and some of the things on those lines, which will help you out. And some of the opportunities, like I usually say El Shringa, Techniche, those are your playground where understanding some of those management thing will help you out there. Okay, there is a question on Facebook. So if someone can put it there, then I can answer it, because right now I'm not on the Facebook. So those are a couple of questions which were there, which I've answered. But let me take further. There are few more slides, and I think I will take another 10 minutes to complete it. But in the meantime, do put down the question which is being there. So I usually say that opposite of success is not failure, right? Opposite of success is quitting, because failures is what gives you more learnings, more things to think about, whereas quitting is makes the end, right? So my sense is opposite of success is not failures, it's quitting, right? So that's something which I just wanted to share with you guys. So just to put down a little bit summary of the talk that I had, I started talking about my exposure with IITG, what I learned. Then I did talk about what did I learn in the corporate world as an employee in the first 6 years of my life, and then what did I learn as an entrepreneur or as an employer in the last 10 years. Right. But my general three advices or the good habits, which I think, irrespective of whether you join a corporate world or you an entrepreneur or you do something else, I think these are the three good habits which I learned over the last 20 years. And this is helping me out. And I have seen helping multiple people out inside my organization as well as outside the organization. Right. So I would say these are the three good habits which will make you better, right? First habit, which I would put down here, is that always have the curiosity in your mind, right? Always be curious and have that habit of learning, right? Because those are the two things. If you build a good habit around it, that you have the curiosity, that kida in your mind, it will take you further, right? And it will help you out, because it will always help you in understanding the things better. And that's what is mentioned also in this slide, that if the things are not clear, ask whether they are dumb or how silly it could be. Don't care about it, right? Because at the end of the day, you need to understand. So be curious and keep learning is the first habit which I am saying here. The second one is try to be happy, right? If you are happy, the surrounding or the environment around you would be a positive one, right? And the positive environment actually brings a lot of energy to you as well as the people surrounding you, right? So don't try to go into the other side where always upset, always try to find out the fault into other people, always trying to blame that this didn't happen because of you. Try to find out some happiness, why you are trying to do this, what's a happiness which is providing to you. So that's something which has worked out well for me, and I again see that's something which is working out good for the people around me. So be happy and do create a positive environment around you, because that's something which will make you come to that place again and again. So that's a second habit which I would say. The third thing is, which I'll say is, be active, right? And active, not just be active, be physically active, because that's something which will keep you fit. And there is a science behind it, that some kind of uh, uh, cells comes out, and which kind of energizes your body also. So and I don't say that be physically active means you need to go to the gym and do the treadmill kind of thing. There are other ways how you can be active, and those could be sports or any of those kind of thing. So that's, can you guys hear me? I see that the window has gone. Okay, Ashutosh, can you ping me if you guys can hear me? Because, okay, and can you see the window? I think that, okay. So that's the third thing which I would say. I'm just seeing where that window has gone. Okay, just give me a second. Okay, so yeah, sorry for the glitch. There was some issue on my laptop, so I missed that window at that time. Yeah, so be active. It doesn't mean gym. You can play, you can walk. And one thing which I do, actually, I play as well as don't walk. But one thing which I do in office is, instead of taking a lift, I go to the cafeteria, which is on the fourth floor, and take stairs, right? So find out your way. What's your way? What's your different way of doing it? But try to find out how you can be active, and this thing is going to help you out later on in your life when you are going to be 40, 45, 50 plus, because this is a habit, and if you don't do it, some of the pain points or some of the issues that you will face later. So that's pretty much at a high level. The three habits, again, I'll summarize. One is your have the curiosity, because, and keep learning, because that's the important thing. The second thing is be happy, create a positive environment around you. And the third thing is try to be physically active. There are, sorry, tons of things which you can do, but involve into some of those things, and that's going to help you out. So I'll take another couple of minutes, and we'll be done, and then we'll try to answer the questions. If someone can put down the Facebook question here on the YouTube, that will help me. So I would like to thank Google here, because that's what gave me all the images, the funny pictures which were being there. The second thing is my journey with IITG, as I talked about the first 4 years. The next 6 years was with Trilogy, that helped me out. And the last one is HashedIn, which is what I have been running right now, and pretty much into the game there, and looking at how to grow further and make it as the number one software development company, to start with Bangalore, and then India, then the globe. And last one is to the sale, to giving me an opportunity to interact with you guys. Obviously, I would have loved to do a face-to-face one, because I think I have one another game or something which I could have played with you guys to make it more meaningful, and having face-to-face have a little bit more different charm, as well as a better understanding, instead of this, which is a one-way channel where I'm just talking. right? I'll just summarize with again the one thing which I said at the initial, that 20 years back, I was at your place where I was listening to some of the people, that what they have done, how they have reached there, and I used to be puzzled whether it's possible to reach there. And 20 years down the line, I am saying the same thing, that I was one of you 20 years back. So if I can do it, obviously every one of you can do it, right? So have that confidence, but keep doing the right things, and keep learning, have that curiosity, and few of the things which I talked about, some of those things will help you out, right? So if you want to reach me, I think Himanshu HV is the common tag across LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, where you can find me. And if you have anything, obviously do you can do send me an email. So I'll take the question Q&A which is being there. Let me take the question. The question about launching in MVP stage was, okay. So what's the question about the MVP stage? Okay, I could see. How can you help startups which are at the idea phase to launch at the MVP stage, or maybe just after MVP to get a production version of the product, right? So obviously you can talk to me if you're talking about how can I help you. I can give some gyan. I don't know how much that gyan is going to be important or right for you guys, but again I would say that at the MVP stage or whatever phase you are in, you need to understand whether there is a value which is going back to the consumer, whether they are ready to pay for that value at some point. If the answer is yes, I think you are doing something right. And then it's more about whether you have a decent set of consumers who are ready for it. And then there are a few ways how you can take it forward. One of the ways, the typical VC, angel, seed kind of thing. And there are times when Fred and families also help out in the initial version from raising capital point of view, and then you can take the journey onwards. So there are few ways how you can take it forward, and there are ways how, if you see that there is a value, you can run without raising fund also. So for us, we didn't raise any money. We are a bootstrap company. We started from zero. We started creating some saving from the work that we were doing it, and that's how we used to invest back into the company. So again, there are ways how you can do it. The second last question is, how do you keep the IP intact with a startup company? I'm sure a lot of IITians here think about cool ideas but lack manpower or no the technologies to launch them. So one thing which I didn't say, and I think maybe I covered. So ideas value is less than 1%. Everyone has an idea. Everyone talks about multiple things. The 99% of the thing is more on the execution side, right? Obviously you want to save the idea or save the things which you are trying to do, but believe me, and that's again my learning from the last 20 years, it's all about the execution, how you execute it, right? If you take the example, there were tons of mail providers, from Postman to your Google, Yahoo, your Outlook, right? Uh, right now, the uh, the Microsoft one as well as the Google one is what is going well. But there were tons of other players who were into the same space, right? So idea was how to have a good communication between two people, right? But it's all about the execution and have the readiness to wait and then take it on, right? So things to come out on the IP side. Don't worry too much. It's more about whether there is a value that you are providing and how you are executing it. Going back to the next question, what kind of experience you believe is more valuable for fresher who plan on starting up their own company like you in the future, right? So I think again the answer is not straightforward that what should be there, but I did try to cover that have few habits for I personally say do spend some time in the corporate world to learn some of the basics, to build an enterprise ready product, have some network around you, and then take a deep dive into the startup world, because by the time you understand some of the philosophies which is being there. Having said that, I'm not saying that after the graduation you should not do a startup. Obviously, if you have something which is very much valuable and is not there in the market, or there is a too much need for that in the market, do take a deep dive. But some of the other things would have helped you out. That's my saying on that side. The last one is, I explicitly need to ask you whether one should prefer working in a startup before they start their own company to learn the entire dynamics of, or work in a big multinational. So I have written a blog about it also. I say that if you want to be an entrepreneur or want to start a startup, don't go to a big MNC. Try to go to a small company, which could be a mid-size also, or a startup is usually a good one, because that's the place where you will be able to do multiple things. And by multiple things, I meant to say not just coding, but be involved in some sense in business, looking at some portion of marketing, do look at some portion of sales, and the various other angles which could be there. So if you join a small startup or a mid-sized company, I think that will give you a much better exposure than joining a big MNC, because those big MNCs are very big and you will be a small dot in the whole MNC. So do search for a blog which is written by product companies and Himanshu, and I think you will find the 5 reasons why I say a small services or a startup is better for the budding entrepreneurs. So I think those were the questions which I could see here, and I think I have tried to answer all of them. Okay, last one is also there. Which factor in IITG boosted you towards going for a startup? So that's a tough one, and I'm trying to recall which is what would have done. But I don't think that there was a good reason, which or good thing which I found there during the IITG days for a startup. I think if when I passed out from IIT Guwahati, and as I was saying, there were only 2 streams for the people. One was higher education. Second was the corporate. There was very less stress on the startup. So startup was not a choice for me at that time. And somewhere during the corporate world, at some point, I realized that I have learned good amount of things, and there is a need here in the Indian market for something. That was a time way back in 2009 when I dived into the swimming pool. So that's a short answer for that one. Okay, that's pretty much from my side. Unless I see another question in the next 5 seconds, I think I'm pretty much done here. Thank you guys for listening to me. And I know this is the 25th year for all of us. So we guys now can say that IIT Guwahati is not a small one, or is not the young one. 25-year is a big landmark, and there are a lot of people from IIT alumni network who have done wonderful. There are a lot of things that we all need to learn from them, and take the IITG flag further. So thank you guys, and wishing you all the best. I'll again summarize with the same thing which I said a couple of times so far. I was one of you 20 years back, and I used to listen. I used to see other people how they have reached. And my point 20 years down the line is, if I have done it, I think there is a lot of things which is inside you guys. And if I can do it, obviously you guys can do it. So with that, all the best, and we'll take it forward from there. Do reach out to me in case there is anything that where I could be of any help. Okay, good night, guys. Take care. Bye bye.